Hello DOPs, I'm glad to welcome you all on my channel. It's called OPERPOST. As strange as it may sound, it just means DOP. And today we have a new format. I'm going to be trying to review some of the movie trailers. And we're going to be reviewing the trailer of the Dune today. Some of you have been writing to me asking to review this trailer. And I found it very interesting to generally make reviews of trailers of the upcoming movies and analyze them. The first thing that I would like to do is to take a look at the IMDb page of the movie and see what kind of equipment was used. We instantly see that the main aspect ratio was 2.39 by 1, and there were some additional aspect ratios for IMAX. The main camera was an Arri Alexa LF, and apparently as an additional camera, it was the Arri Alexa Mini LF. As lenses, Panavision Ultra Vista were used. Apparently some kind of lenses for a large format. In general, Panavision is still not available in Russia, nobody brings it here, so all we can do is just keep dreaming about it, about these lenses, and buy some merchandise. For example, I have a Panavision jacket. I saw a couple of guys wearing Panavision hats as well, so yeah, so far we can only dream about Panavision here. In general, the trailer has a lot of close-up scenes. And I think close-ups, but I really should say super close-up, when the chin is cut, the part of the head is cut. Everything is focused and built on emotions, on looks. The camera is very close to the actors, and we have a very small depth of field, which means that we can literally see the eye and the nose in the focus, and everything else is blurred. On the left it's blurred, on the right it's blurred. So there's very small depth of field, very subtle accents. As far as I've heard, the shooting was mostly done in real locations, so it was a real setting, some real landscapes, minimal use of CG. In this scene we see a rather dark room. At the same time there is a bright source of light from the above. But it's very soft, because the shadow under the character is also quite soft, and it's a bit more to the back than our object, so it's behind him, behind the character. Because of this, it does not eliminate him from his face. Basically, it only highlights his outline to distinguish him a little bit from the background. And anyway, there are some black sheets hanging there, black rags that cover it, so the light doesn't go to the background. Basically, this whole scene is illuminated with only one soft top light. When we go to the close-up, the lamp starts to work more from the direction of the camera. We see these deep shadows under the eyes, but additionally, the eyes are a little bit illuminated either by a reflection or by a little bit of the diffusion frame on them. When we move from the wide shot to more of a two-person perspective, we see that the upper light works as a key for one actor and the other actor, and it highlights the hair a little bit. It gives a backlight to the hand, and it's a little bit behind the actors. The hair of one of the actors himself does not allow the light to go to the side of his face closest to the camera. They create a kind of additional shading, like a flag. I think that here on the background they open the back skirt a little bit, or even introduce some additional source of illumination of the background as it does not fall into black. The scheme is a little bit incomprehensible to me. There is a kind of color contrast. We have an upper light source, it's a little bit cold, and the side source is in the temperature that we saw in the previous scenes. The upper light source on the face is kind of a medium temperature. There is a cold light on top, Perhaps this is justified by the fact that there is some kind of hole in the ceiling from the above and the light from the sky comes through. Well, before that we have not seen such a color contrast on close-ups and on the wide shots. What I mean is, here we have fingers in a cold light, they are highlighted from the overhead light above, and in the next frame they are in an absolutely normal temperature and there is no cold light anywhere as such. Still, we have a softbox working from above as a pattern, and you can see these little dots in the pupils. Most likely some of the lamp was illuminating the character's eyes, not letting him go completely black, and giving these dots in the eyeballs themselves. It doesn't use any kind of bright backlight there, it doesn't emphasize his shadowy side in any way. The shadowy side of the character is not emphasized, as the intent of such a scene is being mainly dark. But at the same time, we barely, but we still see the background, it's not completely taken away by the black. At the return point of the dialogue, we already see again this cold light. It was not here, but here it is now. Apparently from this angle, the guy here was black and he just could not be seen. It was not clear who she was addressing, that he was standing there. So they added a little bit of backlight on the right side, but again, it does not really match with the previous shots. And we have the same light source here again, meaning the scene could have been shot under the same light without moving it. Just a soft light from above goes here, gives the woman a picture and gives a glare here again. This is some kind of lamp which works on her from below. I may be wrong, but there are some temperature distortions here into a colder color. Maybe he had another cold source working above his head, but a soft box with shine on his face. It was warmer, and because of that, the cold color of the cold source was a little bit eaten up. Perhaps it was a little more readable in some situations and less in others. Shooting on an open location. Here we see a lighter background. Our character is not standing against a dark mountain, but he is positioned in a way that makes him stand out better against a brighter sky. And we can see clearly that one side of his face is highlighted more, and we understand that most of the light is on the right side because the sky is bright on the right side. So the right side of the character is highlighted more. The left side is either obscured by some large 20 feet frame there, maybe even several frames, or there was just some mountain on the side that was shading in a natural way. Here we see that in this scene there's the main motivation for the light. It's a big huge window on the side, and the characters are positioned to the window. So the whole mise-en-scene is set up so that the characters are standing sideways to that window, and when we shoot against that window, we have two beautiful silhouettes. When we shoot dialogue, we have the side key from that window all the time. So when we switch to close-ups, we have this window as if it were a side key for one character. And also, the side key comes from the window to another character. So it turns out that we line up this axis to one side, to the other, and all the time we have this window essentially working as a light source. I do not think they put something else in here. Most likely they just shined in this window and it worked for the characters as a big diffusion frame. Plus, they added some so-called practicals, so the sources of light in the frame so that the background would not go into complete black.
Here is a beautiful portrait in the evening sky. It's probably backlit by something, most likely a big softbox of some kind, or there is an 8-feet frame working there. You can see the same glare in the eyes from the light source, giving such a 3/4 Rembrandt pattern with the eye illuminated on the shadow side. Well, this side of the face could of course be darkened with something else, but it's possible that it was already so dark that it didn't work anymore. Clearly, different line schemes are used in the film. The DOP does not repeat the same scheme. You can see that the shot is lined up with a light sky. There is a light sky behind the character. So the actor is a little bit in the silhouette because we have a light background in the back. So it's good to make the silhouette a little bit darkened. That's why I think there were some additional darkeners from the camera. They blocked it. But you can see that the light comes from above, from the sky. So they probably closed the sides. Most likely they closed the sides so that the light stayed in the upper part of the sky and created such a little shadow under the eyes, such a more brutal look. Actually, this film was shot by 2 units of DOPs, so there was a main unit and a second unit DOP. Perhaps the two used slightly different shooting techniques, so they could set the light, take the composition and so on in slightly different ways. In this scene, we see that we have kind of a dark space, we cannot see the window, but we still want to state that this is the day, right? So how do we do that? Suppose we see a doorway, some room, but we cannot see the window in the frame, but we can put some bright light source behind the wall, which will give us a beam into the frame from behind the wall. And if we use a little bit of smoke, it highlights the smoke, and it creates a little bit of color contrast. Because here we can see that some kind of medium temperature is used, around 4400. Most likely the light here is 4400. And the colder light comes from behind the source, which is hidden around the corner. And you get a little bit of color contrast, which is cold and medium temperature light. And because we need to create a light motivation for the main characters, we see that one of them, main characters, has her back to the camera, but she has turned the right way to the light. And in the next frame, when we go to her close-up, we understand that she is lit as if by the light that we saw in the previous frame behind her. And it is basically coming from the same side, some kind of a softbox. And here the temperature of the light on the face is already aligned to 4400. So I would not say that the face here is something colder. Or it was adjusted more for neutral color on color correction, so you can see that there is more blue light. In the next shot, it is so neutral, like more black and white style. Here is a more simplistic light scheme. I think there was just some kind of diffusion frame stretched and several sources of light, like some 18 kilowatt lamps. Street scenes. We understand that orientation in street scenes is always against the sun. In all situations, the sun will be in the backlight unless it's some kind of stalemate situation where you cannot get out any other way. We see them in bright backlighting, but the key appears to be in a very controlled way in the face. We can leave it as it is. In this case, there is a reflection from the ground, some light from the sky. There's light coming in from all sides. There may be some more reflectors that keep the light on them a little bit. But when you're shooting in a desert where the surface is white, or it's winter, or when we have snow, the reflective light comes from below and you don't have to illuminate the faces. Chances are you might have to darken them. And so we see here that two guys are walking opposite each other, walking towards each other. We see that in the first situation the sun was backlit, and when we go to the next frame we see the counter sun again. In theory, if we turn the camera around, the sun should be hitting him in the face from the camera, but no. If we shoot, we try to keep the sun in the back all the time. We just position the shooting day in such a way that while the sun is in one side, we shoot this side, and then if we have to turn around, we wait for the sun to move to the other side. It could be filmed on different days altogether. For example, one day we shoot all the directions in one way, then on another day we shoot all the directions in the other way. Or we adjust the set so it looks like we've turned around. In fact, we just turned around the camera a little bit. The sun is left in the backdrop and we keep looking against the sun. And also when they meet, we still have the sun in the counterpoint. Here is an interesting decision in this scene. Usually when we set the windows on the right side, we do the key on the face from the right side. In this case, it's done the other way around. So the light comes from the left, but it's not clear where it's coming from. Perhaps this is a part of a big scene where the details will be visible, but then again, different DOPs have different tastes, and everybody does it in its own way. We can see that there is more sunny, golden mood in some shots. Most of the film was most likely shot in this kind of dim light, in this kind of whitish format, where there will be some cold light added to give a visual indication that it is not a whitish image, but a more colorful one. I would also like to see the making of, but not of the trailer itself, but of the film, and see what I can find there. Here in the making of, you can see that the cameraman is shooting from the shoulder. He's holding a camera on his shoulder, not an easy rig, as we used to hang cameras on easy rigs, but the camera is hanging there on the shoulder. It's that old school format with the camera on the shoulder. It's more stable, more fixed. Some light source levitates in the air. By the way, this is an interesting solution. We see that the rails that lie on the floor do not have the cross ties that hold the rails in place. They are removed so that the actress can walk and not trip over the sleepers. It's a rule of thumb. The problem with driving away in the straight line from the character is that the character walks and starts to trip over them with his feet. Either he steps over them, or he has to look under his feet. And here I see they solve the problem by laying some special rails that don't have these sleepers. And as we noticed, the light moves together with the actress. Perhaps there's some computer character who is glowing. I don't know what's going to happen in the film. Maybe they're just imitating him by moving a light source from above instead of him. You can see that scenes with golden light were shot with some kind of very harsh, saturated orange filter. Maybe it's some kind of 4-lamp light source as some kind of jumbo. It's hard to say. In this location, we can see that there are two big soft boxes hanging. Apparently, they are some kind of 12-feet frames, which have hanging skirts on the sides. I don't know what function they have here because they do not repel the light. It still hits the side walls, and I doubt that the camera went upstairs, although it's possible. I mean, these skirts, they don't really work in this case. Even if you take this wall here, it's still lit up. Maybe if you take the skirt off, it will light up even more. Perhaps they just darken it a little bit. That's probably it. Here we can see the light source that creates the beam. Probably this ray of light, which comes from behind the wall in the window, doesn't go in the right place, and the guys decided to add just a source inside the room. They shone on the furniture, they used a glare on the chair, and they beat it off from the actors with the upper flag. Because anyway, the reflection from the curtains or even the lens when it's open, even if it shines through, there's still reflected light from the lens. So they covered it up with a black flag to take away the reflected light from the actor. And at the same time, the beam itself hits the table. It works for the actor in a way that it gives a soft reflection off the table and essentially the light part of his face. It works through the reflected light from these windows and the reflected light from the table where the beam shines in. Perhaps it even works as a key, not just to illuminate the furniture, but it is the beam falling on the furniture on the table that is reflected on the actor. It could also be the device giving light to the actor and giving that glare effect. If you recognize this device, let me know in the comments. Also, a backstage photo from the shooting, where we see this lamp which was shining from above on the wide shot illuminated this hall. And here they have already put a diffusion frame onto this device. They came closer from the camera and I'll tell you what shot it is. This is the shot. So we can see that the 8-feet frame works from above, gives a backlight, gives a key. And there is something here also, either it's a diffusion frame or it's a reflective foam. It's most likely a diffusion frame. Gives some more light, reflects on the guy. I mean, there's some more light coming from here. I don't know what it does here, it doesn't really work, I don't understand.
Again, in the making of, we can see this frame or foam and the source which illuminates the actor's eyes so that his eyes have glare.
Подсвечивает глаза актеру, чтобы у него были блички в зрачках.
So it's essentially just eye illumination, and you can see that it's not super soft. It's the size of such a small source. It's soft. I mean, it's not a Dido light, not 650 there with a lens. It's a small soft box so that the glare in the eyes is not a big square, but it's rather a small dot. But at the same time, it remains something soft, and there was not a hard shadow from the nose. It seems I exaggerated talking about jumbo. Most likely there is some kind of platform on which stands, I don't know, an 8-foot frame or something. And this frame probably has 4 powerful warm sources, like 10 kilowatt, maybe 4 10 kilowatt beaming into it. And they are planted on a dimmer of some powerful kind. A dimmer where we can lower them on the dimmer and create this flickering effect, like a fire is burning. There is some kind of orange filter stretched out to make it look like the fire. We also see that the cameraman is moving while sitting on the cart, but he is holding the camera on his shoulder. This is needed when we need to approach something smoothly, softly, moving forward with the subject, and to avoid the jolting from the feet. Sometimes I get on a bicycle rickshaw and they roll me around. Sometimes we sit on a supermarket cart. Sometimes we use a cameraman's cart, but we take the camera on our shoulder and we're able to obtain that very smooth movement of the camera. But at the same time, we can calmly approach and move away, make some movements, even maybe just some panos. Here we see a certain n number of sources of light. One of them is more narrowly focused, most likely shining on the lady. It's hard to make out here, but I see a lot of rags, so it's probably some kind of soft source, plus some kind of harsher directional source that spotlights the absorbent cotton area. And the softer ones kind of light up the whole area. And here we can also see that there are essentially no light sources anywhere in this room, and the window itself is essentially such a big soft light source for this whole scene. Well, my friends, that's all for this review. I cannot wait to see the movie itself. I think it's going to be a huge event, like a new Star Wars franchise. I'll see you in the next video. This was Alexey Andreev with you. This is OPERPOST channel. Please subscribe, give some likes, write your comments. Let me know what other trailers you'd like me to review. And see you again. Bye.